Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time here, hi, hello, my name is Rebecca. Thank you for being here. The video that you're about to watch is an interview that I did with my mom, a legacy video. If it's not your cup of tea or not really something that you're interested in seeing, by all means go and check out another one of my videos. But basically I wanted to sit down with her and give her a chance to talk about her life and her viewpoints. It's about her religion and her strength and her integrity and just everything that makes up the woman that is my mother. And it was really important to me that I sit down and do that with her. I talk about it a little bit later on in the video. If you watch it, I hope you enjoy it. By all means, let me know what you think. I will see you guys soon. Hey guys, I'm at home right now in Indiana and I wanted to do something with my mom. This is Annie, my beautiful mother, called a legacy video. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically where you sit down with an elder member of your family or someone who is significant to you and you just ask them questions about their life and their experiences and their viewpoint, and it's kind of just a chance to give them a voice and hear their opinions and their experiences. It's a really good way to kind of record a little bit of history, which is really important to me because my family hasn't always been the best about remembering past family members, past events going back, 100 years or so. That's kind of all foggy and lost. So it's really important to me to hang on to history because it's important. I value where I come from, and then also I believe those who don't know their histories are doomed to repeat it. So I'm just going to ask my mom a series of questions and we're going to just chat about her life and give her a chance to share her experiences. So I really hope that you enjoy it. So just to start off, I want to know when you were born and where you were born and kind of where it all began.
Well, I was born in Marshall, Minnesota on April 13th, 1967 in the hospital in that very small town, like a population of maybe, at that time, 8,000 people.
What did you enjoy the most doing as a child? What fond memories do you have of growing up?
The thing I think of the most would be reading. I read fairly early, and once I learned how to read, I just took off, and the library was always my favorite place to go. So definitely reading. I also remember riding my bike a lot, just playing outside a lot, either in my little baby pool with my model horses. Horse books were one of my favorite things. Or pretending that my bike was a horse. I would ride outside on my bike literally for hours.
And I think that that's something that you and I are very similar in, because I did the exact same things when I was little. It took me a long time to learn how to read. Well, I didn't want to learn how to read. I think you went through hell trying to get me to learn to read. But then once I did, I've been reading ever since.
There was no looking back.
I love books so much, and I was obsessed with horses, and I did the same thing with my bike. It's kind of cool to hear that and to see the similarities, because it's not like you told me to do any of those things. It's just something I thought I should do.
It's neat to see that as a parent.
How many jobs have you had?
I did write this down because there's been a lot. So my first paid job was at a McDonald's.
Oh, wow, like me.
In Fargo, North Dakota at the age of 16. And then probably the next summer I worked at the mall there in Fargo at a B. Dalton bookstore, which was a great job for a person who read. I really liked that job a lot. And at some point in there, I also worked for a friend of my dad's processing insurance claims for his chiropractic practice. It was really easy. This was before the age of computers, so it was all filling out forms, and it was just something he needed help with that I could do. That was a really short-lived thing, as I recall. Then, after I met your father, I worked in Lexington, Kentucky for Hurricane Hall Stud as a broodmare and foal groom. And then I also worked after that for a period of time at the Kentucky Horse Park in the Breeds Barn, caring for horses in there and riding in the Parade of Breeds show, which was super fun. It did get kind of crazy because you would find yourself answering the same questions constantly to people, tourists who would come in, and a lot of them didn't know anything about horses, so they would ask the same silly questions over and over. You felt like you were, I don't know,
Groundhog Day?
Yeah, exactly. But riding in the show was really fun because you got to dress up in the native costume of whichever breed that you rode. And then later when I had been working there, but then we moved back to Indiana because your father's father was dying and did die of cancer. So then when we got back, kind of a period of what are we going to do, and struggling and things like that. But I remember I worked as a dog groomer, which wasn't bad. It was actually pretty interesting, unless the dogs were not friendly, which happens. And then I also worked for a discount store called Ames which is kind of like a small Walmart. It's now closed. And then later I went to the Institute of Medical and Dental Technology in Cincinnati to become certified as a dental assistant because I wanted a more regular job I could count on that was well paying, and it was. I enjoyed the work. Any issues I did have were with coworkers.
That's always how it is.
Yeah. There were, you know, I got along with everyone, but there was just a lot of shenanigans that went on in the office and people acting badly. Even the dentist that I worked for having affairs on his wife and children, that was difficult to see that. And then I also worked for a doctor here in Greendale. I worked there for a couple of years as a dental assistant, and that was very rewarding. But then once your father and I decided to have children, it was a no-brainer that I would just stay home and do the mama thing. And I was all for that because I enjoy working, but my family has always been just where I wanted to concentrate my energy and my talents, and I have always found that super rewarding. So it was a logical choice for me to be the one to stay home, and because I wasn't making as much money as your father. So that was probably about 1994 or the beginning of 95, right in there, but I did get pregnant with you right away. So it was really great to be able to be home.
I can imagine probably that if I were to ask you what's been the most rewarding job you've had, you would say being a mother.
Definitely.
But out of all the jobs that you had up to that point, which one do you think you enjoyed the most?
I would say working with horses in some capacity, just because they're such amazing animals. And, you know, I've always loved horses my whole life, and your father was really good at working with them too and got a lot of satisfaction out of it. He was very good working with the horses and training and being an exercise rider in Lexington. And honestly, if it hadn't been for his father getting sick, I think we probably would have stayed there. But things work out for a reason.
My next question was going to be, how did you decide on a career? But I guess really your career has been being a mom to all of us.
Sure, but I purposely decided to go into the thoroughbred horse racing industry, and that was actually, that's where I met your father, was at a thoroughbred horse training facility here in Indiana, actually, that trained people how to work with those kinds of horses, and it taught a lot about just that kind of an animal in general, like their nutrition and the training methods that were popular at the time, and how to work on a racetrack and things like that. And
what was that place called?
It was called Hawkeye Hill in Comiskey, Indiana.
And that's where you met my dad?
Yes.
And what was that like?
That was love at first sight, I have to say. I walked in and saw him, and I thought, wow.
Tell me about that first moment when you saw him, because it's one of my, describe how he looked, because it's one of my favorite stories.
Well, the first moment I saw him, he didn't have his get up on.
Oh.
He was sitting around a table with some other students, and he just stood out because he's very funny and witty. And outgoing, and you know, just he was and is still to me very attractive. So he stood out to me. But he was embracing the whole English equestrian look, as far as the jawed purrs, the jockey helmet with the silk cover with the blue and white sections, and the white pom-pom, the knee-high boots. Whereas everyone else had jeans, t-shirts, cowboy boots. I didn't have any. I just had my tennis shoes and jeans. So like he really, once we got out in the barn area and to ride, and I saw that, it was just like, wow.
And I think there actually is a picture floating around somewhere. I don't even know where it's at, but I know I've seen a picture of him wearing that outfit on a horse. Yeah, because I remember that, the section, the helmet, and the pom-pom and everything. You don't forget seeing something like that.
He was rocking it. He looked great. It was just, he was the only one there dressed like that, so he really stood out.
He went all in, yeah. So how long were you guys dating before you knew that he was going to be the one that you would be with for the rest of your life? And then what was the proposal like?
Really, it was almost immediate. If you would talk to your father, I think he felt the same way. He recognized something different in me right away, and it was just an instant attraction. Not just physical, but like, you know, our personalities and us as people, and bringing out the best in each other and complimenting each other. So that, I think, it was pretty immediate. And then he proposed to me really soon after that, actually at your grandmother Mary Ann's house in the backyard one night. It was in that setting, and you know, of course I said yes right away.
You didn't have any reservations? situations or any
Not
second
whatsoever.
thoughts? No?
I've always felt like God brought us together for a reason.
Well, you guys have been together for 30 plus years now, so
it'll be 32 this year.
And I've seen your guys' marriage obviously for the past 23 years and all the ups and the downs, and I mean, things have not always been easy. I've definitely seen you guys clash and have conflict, but your marriage has been a great example because it's just been really, really strong, and I never had to worry that you guys were gonna divorce or not, you know, go your separate ways or anything. That was never in question. I was always thankful for that.
We have never considered splitting up. There's been times when we've been like very angry at each other, or ne'er the twain shall meet type of thing, and you know, it's gonna happen when you get to know someone that well over that amount of time, and you're going through some of life's most difficult challenges. It's going to happen because you're two very different people, but the trust was always there. Like I always completely, explicitly have trusted your father with my life, like I still do. He's my best friend. He always has been.
So you guys got married. You were married for
about 8 years.
Before you decided to have kids.
Right, that would be you.
I was the first. What has been the most rewarding part about being a parent?
The most rewarding part for me, I always felt like I was cooperating with God and creating a family. So like the whole process of being pregnant and creating new life, that was awesome. Like I always enjoyed being pregnant. I'm one of the very lucky people that never did have a little bit of nausea in the beginning and tiredness, and certain foods would make me feel good, but never morning sickness like a lot of people struggle with. Actually, like towards the middle of the pregnancies, felt so energized, and it was just a neat experience feeling that life grow in you and just cooperating with God. I feel like I've always put things in His hands. So in raising a family, and not to say that things have always turned out the way I thought, because I'm an idealist in everything, and that can be good and bad.
Yeah, and you're a perfectionist too, I think.
Yes.
Like I am. So it can be really frustrating when you make a plan and then it doesn't work out, or
right, because life happens and you're dealing with a multitude. If you have more than one child in particular, you're dealing with a multitude of personalities, and you're not in control of that. You know, and it really makes you realize how little you are actually in control of things, your own life, plus definitely not the people around you. So I feel like the most you can do is just love people. And I would just say becoming a wife and a mom are the most rewarding things, and seeing my children, seeing them, like being pregnant with them and then seeing them like there they are, and wow, here's this unique person, and seeing them grow into themselves has been super rewarding.
So moving on, we're gonna get into some of these questions are more just like opinion based, more introspective, less about maybe your life and more about your viewpoints and values. So to start off with, which world event, political or otherwise, has impacted you the most?
I definitely remember where I was when the Space Shuttle Columbia exploded. That was actually, I believe, 1986. So we were at Hawkeye Hill when that happened. And then 9/11, I was pregnant with Maria, and that was a big shakeup because no one knew what the future was going to hold for us as a nation. And here I was, you know, with these little kids and trying to do my thing, raising a family, and I wasn't sure how that was all going to impact us. So that was a big deal. And the other event that sticks in my mind would be Y2K, when the year changed from 1999 to 2000. We thought it was going to be much more impactful than it turned out to be. And we were into our back to basics living phase really strongly back then, so like we were super prepared with stocking up on food and having non-electric lights just in case the power grid went down. So, you know, that just kind of worked in though with our philosophies at the time and how we were living like closer to the land and raising a lot of our own food. And those are some events that stick out the most in my mind.
I remember what it was like growing up and living on the farm and working and raising everything, and the canning and the picking all the vegetables and taking care of all the animals. And at the time, maybe I didn't really enjoy it so much. I think there were definitely aspects of it that I liked, but I know looking back on it now, that was such a unique experience that a lot of people my age haven't had, and even my younger siblings haven't had that because, you know, after we moved and everything, things really changed. So to have that to look back on, it means a lot to me now, and I think it really helped make me who I am, because I feel much, much closer to the outdoors than I think maybe Andrew does. And part of that's just my personality, but I think a lot of it has to do with growing up on a farm.
Those experiences.
As you look back over your life, do you see any turning points or key points or experiences that changed the course of your life or set you on a different path?
I see two in particular. The first one would be leaving home in North Dakota and going to school and meeting your father, because it's like before and after, you know, it's a real demarcation for me. And then the other thing would be probably about a year or two before we decided to start our family, just coming back to, because I was born and raised a Catholic very nominally, didn't understand the faith whatsoever, didn't go to church regularly, wasn't taught the beauty of the faith at all. And I do feel like God definitely had a plan for me in that.
I definitely feel that your faith impacted all of us growing up so strongly, and our fathers too, because we were always going to church and we were always praying together as a family, and we were always reading either about the lives of the saints or from the Bible or whatever, observing Advent and Lent and those holy times. I have such strong love for all those traditions, all of the history and just everything that goes in along with Catholicism, because nowadays with a lot of the stuff that had come out recently, Catholicism is not looked upon favorably or positively, and with good reason. But there is so much more that goes into it that people don't see with the history and the tradition. And that's what's always been the most beautiful to me, is all of those little details and the pieces that you really, when you dig into it, and you get to learn about. And that's something that I know a lot of other Catholics didn't have growing up or never received, because their parents didn't put in the effort and the time to teach them those things. And I really value that stuff. Regardless of how I might feel about the Catholic Church, I have so much love for all those traditions.
Yeah, the church definitely is going through a time of, I look at it as a renewal, because I think these things, as horrible as they are, and I feel so badly for the people that have suffered, this all had to come out to get better.
Yeah.
And, you know, historically you can look way back and find reasons why we're at the point we're at, and it all makes complete sense. And like you said, it's very involved, and we won't get into that now, but, you know, as upsetting as it was to us as a couple, because we knew things were off, definitely, but not as bad as it's been exposed to be. And it shook us to our core, like many people, but it really came down to what we believe and what we feel like Jesus was establishing on earth, and making the choice to live holy lives, and that's all we can do.
And I never felt like growing up any of the negative things that were happening really got into our family. It was always kind of them and us, and I think that has helped me a lot growing up and going out on my own and having to decide what I believe and what I support, because I've been able to separate myself much easier from the rabble and have my own beliefs and stand confidently in those, and not feel like I need to be pressured to go any particular way. I don't know if you know that, but that's been incredibly helpful.
That's good to know. My main goal as a mother was just to present the faith as to what it meant to me, was something truly beautiful and meaningful and really necessary in life. Knowing that there's something bigger than myself. Yes. I totally believe that this earth is not the end.
What would you say you know about living a happy and successful life now that you didn't know when you were 23?
Pretty much
if you can condense
pretty much it comes down to just knowing that this life that I've been given isn't really about me per se. Like it is. I mean, we all have our own selfish desires and wants that we would like to have happen, but I think as I've gotten older, and particularly since I became a mother, it's really taught me that life is really about your relationships with other people, not like what you own or how you look or even necessarily what you accomplish, although that is, you know, if you're going to live a life of import, you're going to be helping the people around you and being supportive of the people around you. So having it be a lot more about others than myself, and becoming more humble and not so prideful, because I have a lot of natural pride.
What would you say are the major values and principles that you live by?
This goes back to the whole faith thing. I try to live by the 10 Commandments totally, and the teachings of the church. I do feel like those are put in place not to restrict us, but to help us realize our full human potential, because God does know us so well. He created us, and he knows. I've seen, as I've lived my life by being faithful, the fruit that comes from that.
So really, I think it comes down to having a strong moral code that relies on something besides your own opinion or your own viewpoint.
Very well. Yes.
And standing by that, regardless of what other people might tell you should do or should believe or should feel.
Exactly. I'm way more interested in what God thinks of me than what any person out there thinks of me.
What has been the happiest and then also the saddest moment in your life?
Marrying your father, definitely. Each time I had a child, I remember when I had you, the minute you came out, I told your papa, I want to do this again right now. Like, I was so pumped up. But all of the births of my children, the saddest would probably be, I had a miscarriage before Andrew, but then again, that God turned that to happy because, Andrew came about a couple of months after that. He's been a real light in my life as an older mother. He's a great kid. He's unique, as you all are. So that's been awesome. Other than that, like we all have our little sorrows, but I look at those as opportunities for growth because I really truly believe you grow the most from the hard things.
And it was obviously very, very sad and then very disappointing when Gabriel didn't make it. But I feel like in a lot of ways, and it's not really something concrete that I can point to, but I've always felt like there has been a presence just kind of around. And I guess maybe you could say it was angels or something like the Holy Spirit or whatever language you want to use, but I just have always felt very close to that. But I like to believe that he has always kind of been in the family, even so.
Sure.
What are you most thankful for?
I would say the people in my life, my faith, and my health, because without that, that's a real gift that we totally take for granted, I feel like. Especially as getting older now, I see people not either my age or not that much older than me going through like really serious health issues, and I've always had such good health that I'm grateful for that.
I'm really thankful for the fact that our whole family has been so healthy. The fact that I have not had a whole lot of health issues. I think when Aaron got sick, that was really kind of brought everything back into focus and reminded me of how important it is not only to value people when you have them and to value your relationships and to put in the time and the effort to build strong, positive experiences with people, but also just to value your own life and to take every single moment for what it is and to really appreciate it, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, you could get sick and think you're going to get better and then something could happen.
Totally.
So
it was a wake-up call with Aaron, definitely.
So you've had a long and very eventful and exciting life up to now, and you had a lot of experiences and gained a lot of insight and passed a lot of wisdom on to all of us. What do you want to achieve going forward? What are some goals that you have for yourself, and where do you want to see yourself in 20 years?
Well, hopefully still living life fully, but also growing, I like to challenge myself to new experiences, like even doing this is a new thing for me. Continuing to push myself to do things that are uncomfortable, but also now that I'm moving into the stage of most of my kids being out of the house, I would like to do more for my community. For instance, at church, we're trying to establish a St. Vincent de Paul Society where we can help disadvantaged people in the Dearborn County community, and I'm on the formation board of that. I'm excited about that. Maybe getting more involved with Pregnancy Care Center, things like that, and then also just being with your father more. Not that we ever disconnected, but like, we had a lot of years before kids. The kids totally changed that, and it's focusing on them for quite a while. So like spending more time with him and definitely travel. One of my goals is to get to every single state in the union, even Hawaii and Alaska. Seeing more of my country and then also the world that's a dream of mine.
I know you've always wanted to go over and see Europe and Wales and England and Scotland, and still something that I would like to do too, so maybe we could go together.
Oh, that'd be great. I'm looking forward to the adventures also I'll have with my children and their future families, and hopefully becoming a grandmother. I've been looking forward to that since I had my own kids. I know a lot of women don't want to be a grandma or be called that, but to me it's really, I'm excited about it. I want to be a good grandmother, the kind that makes cookies and plays games with the grandchildren and does things and just is with them, reads books to them.
I think you're going to be great, yeah, because you were such a good mom. this pretty much wraps it up. I think we went through quite a few questions. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap it up?
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to do this. Like I said, even though it was challenging and a slightly fearful thing, not horrible, but you know, slightly, giving me the opportunity to do it, just to let you know that I'm super proud of you. I always said I wanted to be like you when I grew up. Very motivated person, very beautiful. Love you more than the world, and I'll always be here for you. I hope you know that.
I do. I think it's pretty clear to see, for those of you who have been following me for a little bit, that I have different views and slightly different beliefs than maybe my mom or my parents do, but they raised me to be the person that I am. All of the things that they taught me and all of the beliefs that they instilled in me and the traditions and the values, I still really value those. I still hold them really close. I think that I always will. They made sure that I had a strong moral compass and knew where I was going and what I wanted to do. That is something that I think is probably the greatest gift that a parent can give a child, regardless of anything else. That is what I am most thankful for. That is where I want to leave this video. So if you enjoyed it, give it a like. I'll put my mom's Instagram in the description. She never posts, but you can follow her if you want to. Let me know what you think. If you have family, especially grandparents if they're getting older, could maybe consider doing something like this with them, because I think it's important to preserve your history and to take the time to give the people that have been in your life the longest a chance to talk about where they've come from and how they became the people that they are. That's gonna be it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon for the next video.
Bye.